All right. And then you go live on your phone as well to the YouTube to see if there are any questions that will pop up over there.
Okay, have you?
It's loading. Redirecting. Okay, mute site. All right. All right. Here we go. We are live.
Okay.
And let me send you the live link. I need to post it on my Facebook stuff as well.
Is this the one you've put?
This is a special link for it.
Okay. I'm just gonna change the link in the video.
Yeah.
And the post so far.
So I see it was a special link on my thing.
Oh.
Okay.
Should I haven't? No. Okay. Let me post this very quick. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. So do you want us to maybe wait a minute or so for people to come on, or?
Pardon?
Do you want to wait? Do you want to wait a minute or so for people to come on the YouTube, or you're fine?
Can we tell whether people are on?
When we go to YouTube, we will see the number of people who are watching.
Okay.
So if you look on the YouTube on your phone.
3 people watching. So
yeah, so
the
people
2
are
of
coming
us, and
people are coming on.
Hello, everybody. Wait for a moment, and then we'll get started.
Just doing the technical part of it. And just give people like 5 minutes or a minute or 2 to come on.
Maybe we should mute while we do that.
To come on. Oh, I should mute on my. Okay. So we have 3 people on, but more will come on. Just give it some time. So we're just waiting for other parents to come in before we start. So for those parents who are live on YouTube already, please don't go. We're just waiting a bit. So people are coming in, and we're going to start in a minute or so.
Exactly. You can already post your questions in the comment section. And if you want to ask a question in German rather than in English, do that too. And I'm going to read it to Taniesha and translate it. So no problem posting them in German as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe so, Taniesha, maybe we should.
Let's start.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it's being recorded so people can watch it afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Taniesha, for being with us tonight.
Yes.
We have a huge crisis. Everybody knows that. And within this crisis, parents are experiencing a specific crisis because they're at home with their kids while they need to work in the home office, and also their kids being not able being outside, being with their peers and having social contacts other than their parents, which is pretty hard on the entire families. And now you know the situation that nobody knows when Kitas are going to be opening up again. And same thing for schools, at least for small kids. Every federal state is handling things differently. And so we all in this very vulnerable place right now, and we all have different situations going on at home. And so I'm going to start just asking questions. Um, but maybe first of all, you can introduce yourself and tell us who you are. And when I talked to you before, you told me loads of very interesting things about how kids' brains work and how relationships
Yeah.
between parents and kids work. And it would be
Yeah.
very interesting if you just give us an idea of that and of your work.
Yes. So, Louisa, thank you for thinking of me to come on and talk to the parents about how we can adjust to our new normal for the time being. So, for those who don't know me, I am Dr. Taniesha Burke. I'm a parent coach, developmental psychologist, as well as a researcher. So basically, what I do is that I help parents raise healthy children while enjoying this beautiful journey called parenting. And I do that through my coaching programs, one on one coaching programs, or my online academy where parents have access to online courses and support group. And I also do that in live workshops with groups. So, for example, I work with international schools here in Berlin. So that's what I'm basically doing right now. I know I've had a lot of contact with parents who are experiencing the changes, trying to figure out what exactly is the best way to navigate this space. One of the first things I say to parents is, this is all new. It is literally a new experiment. We don't know what is going to happen. I know a lot of parents are concerned about the social isolation that their children are going through. There's lots of research that look at what happens when you pull parents and children apart and the negative effect it has on a child's social and emotional development. However, being stuck in confinement for a long time, we don't have much research on that. So this is all new. It's like we are all in an involuntary form of experiment to figure out what is happening. But what we can do today, though, is to this evening, though, is to really talk about how we can adjust to the situation as best as possible to support our children, to support ourselves, and also to support our partners. So, one of the things I want to start with is a lot of parents are probably experiencing like a lot of exhaustion, and it's coming from having to try to juggle the work and having to juggle work and children full time. And even if you're not doing a lot of work, you might feel mentally tired or just physically tired in general. And what I want parents to understand is that this is expected because there's something going on. When we're in this kind of pandemic, a lot of us brain goes into fight, flight, or freeze, which is the lower part of the brain in the limbic system, and it is a survival brain. It basically helps us to survive, and it was the first part of the brain that evolved. So when all the energy of trying to survive because of all the stressors that are happening, so lots of people are either losing their jobs, couples are fighting, siblings are fighting, everything is going wrong. When we're in that fight or flight mode, it becomes extremely difficult for us to connect with the upstairs brain. Okay, and the upstairs brain is the prefrontal cortex, and that deals with all executive functions. So you might risk to find yourself losing more of emotional control, impulsivity. You might notice the same thing in your children or even your partners. When we're in fight or flight, it becomes extremely difficult for us to connect with the executive function that deals with emotional regulation, that deals with impulse control, that deals with good decision making skills, that deals with skills relating to interpersonal relationships. All of that, literally, they are put on pause for a while or they're not working as effectively. So, what I say to parents, if you see yourself lashing out, there's also something going on in the brain that is causing you to not be as patient. You might be feeling guilty, like, I never used to scream at my kids. Now all of a sudden I'm screaming and you're feeling guilty about it. Be gentle with yourself. Realize your brain and the rest of your body is the brain body is under serious stress right now. You have stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, all of that pumping. And the part of the brain that helps you to think effectively is literally on pause at the moment. And when we're in fight or flight as well, we become very hyper vigilant and we're more reactive to stress. we're more likely to have outbursts and that kind of thing. So when you see these things happening, especially in the family, and it wasn't a norm before, just recognize that what is happening is that everybody's body is under some form of stress, and that's we're in fight or flight and we're just trying a way to survive. So especially if you see children are very defiant, you might see them have it not willing to cooperate, just having tantrums and meltdown. They are in their brain is in fight or flight mode, and it might be even more drastic for very young children because their brain is still so immature and they're still trying to develop. So they don't have the level of experience, they don't have life experience to know how to regulate their emotions. And so for us as parents, we have to be a little bit more gentle and patient with them instead of saying, why all the time I have to be telling you to do X, Y, and Z, and so on. They're also under stress, but their outbursts might be more explosive because of their limited years of experience in how to handle their emotions. So that's the first thing I want to say to parents, that biologically, we're all under stress, and it's really important for you to understand what is happening and to just be gentle with yourself, your children, and your partner as we all go through this.
I muted myself, so thank
Yeah.
you very much for that. So you already talked about like this special situation, and many of us have kids in different ages,
Mhm.
and we struggle with explaining this situation to our kids. So if you take some examples, like a very young kid, like middle aged, like I
Middle childhood.
8,
Yeah.
and maybe even to a teenager, how
Mhm.
do you explain the crisis itself, Corona itself, and the measures that have been taken and the
Yeah.
severity of it?
So age appropriate conversation is very important. So for young children, let's say 3 to 4 year old, explaining this whole thing about the coronavirus is too complicated for their brain. Okay. So what you want to do is use simple terms as there's a germ, there's an ugly germ going around right now, and we have to be very careful. So we have to make sure that we're always washing our hands. And for parents, you can turn that into a game several times of the day to remind them, hey, we want to make sure that we are fighting the germ. So we have to wash our hands often, that kind of thing. So for early childhood children, going into the whole detail of what is going on with the coronavirus, cognitively, they're not there to understand. Now, when you go to middle childhood, so say 6, 7 on to 12, you then can have a conversation with them in a language that they understand. They know what the coronavirus is. What I say to parents before you start the conversation is to ask them what they know. Sometimes we go as parents, we make the mistake of going into a lecturing, let me tell you what is happening, and so on and so on. And when children experience a lot of times that kind of lecturing, they will shut down. Yeah, I already know that. So to engage our children in the conversation, the first thing is to tell me what you know. And whatever they know, they, you might be very surprised because if they are communicating with their friends, they're exchanging ideas. If they're in late middle childhood, say 9, 10, 11, they might already be on social media. So they might be seeing things online based on what they know. You then, anything that needs to be corrected, you correct, you make sure you correct it. And if wherever gaps are, you fill them in. Okay. And when you have a conversation and have them be the one talking and you be the one asking the questions, they're more motivated to open up to you. Now you can share as parents your general fears about what is happening or your general concerns. So it's good to see that they have an idea of how you feel as well, instead of just having it be that they are the ones who are expressing and they don't really know how you feel. Now, for teenagers, it's the same thing. You can go more in depth, but because they're more on social media, the conversation needs to be deeper because they might be seeing a lot of fake news things. They might be on TikTok, they might be on Instagram, um, Twitter, Facebook is for us old folks, but they might be on these other social media platforms and they're seeing things that might not necessarily be true. So for the teenagers, it's also very important to find out what they know and to have a dialogue with them. They might be saying, they might think this is too stupid. I want to be with my friends. Now, parents, I want you to be very patient with teenagers. Teenage years is a time for your friends. You move away from hanging out with your parents, and your friendship group become very important to you. So yes, early childhood, they're experiencing their challenges, middle childhood as well. But for teenagers, the social distancing away from their peers is very agonizing. So a lot of parents will see that their teenagers are stuck in the room, don't want to come out. They prefer not to engage with the family. They might have outbursts. They might be very withdrawn. All of that is communicating that your teen is having some kind of anxiety and they're really missing their friends. So, again, the patience of you as a parent has to come into play. So, to help teenagers as well, you can say, let's see what we can do as a family to support people in our community. So when teenagers have a sense of purpose, they tend to feel more motivated to get moving. So you can say, hey, maybe we can drop off excess food to a food pantry, or we can do some networking thing that's happening online to support less fortunate families in the community, that kind of thing, to help to pull them out of the rut that they might feel. And also to parents too, you might see in middle childhood and adolescence, teenage years, that children might be going through grief. And it's really important to allow them to go through the grief. They might be going through the grief because one, exams are canceled. So, in Berlin, I think the grade 10 exams, I think postponed or canceled, I'm not sure. In other places around the world, international exams are canceled or postponed. Teenagers and middle childhood children might have had athletic competitions, so many things that they planned, and all of a sudden, all of that is gone. When you see that, they're sad. They're thinking, my world is completely changed. What will happen? Allow them to grieve. What you're seeing them going through is grief. And yes, they might be in denial. Yes, they might go through the anger and then go through the 5 stages of grief and so on. Be there for them. And what you're feeling too as parents might be grief. So your whole world, might have lost your job. You might now be worrying about how to pay your rent. All that kind of thing, the sadness that you're experiencing is grief. So allow yourself to go through it and allow your children to go through it as well.
Thank you. So there are lots of things that we like in normal life when without this situation going on. It's hard enough to be a parent and
Mhm.
to get along with your kid and build a relationships. Maybe so. Maybe you could just go into that for a bit and just give us some insight on how to build a trustful relationship between us and our kids and how to react, for example, when they're stubborn, they don't want to eat, they all these kind of things that
Mhm.
you probably see everywhere.
Yeah. So again, it's the stress, it's the anxiety, um, not just stress, it's uncertainty stress. So we go through normal day-to-day stress and we bounce back pretty quickly. Uncertainty stress is where you really don't have any idea of how you're going to come out of this. There's no idea of the outcome. And there's this constant uncertainty where you have to constantly shift and adjust to what is going on. So 1 week, something might be said about the virus and how the city you live in is going to adjust. Following week, suddenly there's another change. You have to readjust again. When we see that in ourselves and our children, just understand what is going on. I say to parents, one of the key things to do is to try to be there emotionally for your children as much as possible. If you know your child, one who used to be very talkative and outgoing, and you notice they're being very quiet, you know when it's the right time to have a conversation with your kid. You might jump in bed with them, give them a back rub, and ask, "Hey, what's going on? I want to know how you're feeling. This is tough for you, isn't it? It's tough for me too. I want to help you to feel better. Just let me know what's going on with you. What do you think we can do to maybe problem solve with your children? as it relates to whatever it is that they're experiencing. So, parents, it's really important to have empathy for your children. And the next thing is you might need to modify your expectations. So, the expectations that you had when everything was before quote unquote normal, you might have to change that a bit. And so you might have expected that your child could calm down usually within a couple of minutes. Because of the added stress, they might take longer. They might take longer to fall asleep as well because they are, nervous about what is happening in the world. And parents sometimes make the mistake of not wanting to talk to children when they're experiencing a particular fear about something. Like if you don't talk about it, it will go away. That is actually the wrong approach because children are more likely to experience anxiety and fear when they don't understand what is going on. So, as a parent, you have to continuously be talking to your children. Tell me how you feel. What do you think is going to happen? The more they talk about their feelings, the more they're able to understand them, number one. Number two, once they understand, they can name it. And the third thing is once they can name it, they can tame it. So you literally, it's same thing with us. You have to be able to understand what is happening with your body, with your feelings, and you name it and you tame it. But oh, that requires some form of dialogue with us parents. I know parents are really overwhelmed. We are all trying to survive. So how can we do that with our children? Our children's health and mental well-being is way more important than them completing their online completing their online task or for school or for you to meet your deadline and all of that. Take a pause and focus on them emotionally first before you move on to the other things. And I know people will say, but I have my work commitments. Again, modifying your expectations, not just for your children, but also for yourself, to say to your boss, I cannot do the same things that I used to do in February. I have to take, you have to let me know what are your top three priorities that you want me to complete right now. I can go with those because of this thing that is happening in my house where I have to be full-time mom or dad while I'm also a full-time employee.
Well, this is obviously a question that a lot of people have is even if I am able to talk to my boss and I am able to work less, I still need to do my work. So I need to
Mhm.
do like the task that I need to do.
Right.
So how do I explain mommy needs to work, mommy needs to do these kind of things? And
Okay.
for example, my kid, he always interrupts me when I'm on the phone.
Mm,
So how do I do that?
okay. So when your children interrupt you, you don't want to just tell them I'm on the phone and then they feel like they're not important. Okay. What you need to do as a parent, especially with the little ones, to say they came and maybe they have painted something and they rush into your office to say, hey, look at what I've painted. And you're on a phone call. You can kindly ask the person on the phone call to just wait a moment. And you can say to your child, hey, Susie, your painting is really important to me right now, and I want to give it my undivided attention. I want to be able to look at it properly without any form of interruption, but I can't do it now because I'm on the phone. But I will finish my phone call in 10 minutes. Now, if you have young children who do not understand the concept of time, you might put a timer so that's something for them to wait on. For all the children who understand time, they will say, okay, in 10 minutes. So you try to wrap up your call in 10 minutes. And then after the 10 minutes, you say, okay, my call is done. Bring that painting to me. I want to see. Tell me about it. How did you come up with this concept of what you painted and so on? When you do that with children, they feel that they matter. They feel that they're significant. When you say to them, I want to give you this undivided attention, but I just need a few minutes. And you decide what that few minutes is to finish up my work. Once my work is finished, then I'll come to you and you have all my attention. And even the little ones will wait.
So thank you. During this time, a few minutes sometimes won't cut it. And so we all trying to get up kids to be more playing on their own, be more doing things on their own,
Mhm.
which obviously is different from kid to kid, but also we might be able to not train it, but help them to be more independent,
Right.
work, play on their own. How would one do that?
Okay, so a lot of parents I've spoken to think that it's our responsibility to always entertain our children. That's not true. A lot of cognitive development and emotional development comes from unstructured play. So, parents, if you're feeling that you don't have the time to like sit down with your child all the time to play, it is not our it might sound harsh, but it's not our responsibility to structure and entertain them all the time. When children have unstructured, uninterrupted play, that's where creativity comes in because they have to figure out a way to entertain themselves. Now you have a little child who wants to play with you all the time. It's the same thing like being on the phone call, but you have to communicate in a way to say, I have faith that you can figure it out, that you can entertain yourself. How about you? Especially for the little ones, children under 5 and under. Let's put the timer on 10 minutes and you do your play. So you might use your cell phone if you don't have one of those actual timers. And I'm in the kitchen, and while you're playing, mommy will make lunch. So you make a little game of it. And as they get used to doing it, you might extend from 10 minutes to 15 minutes and so on. When you get to the older children, they will come and say, oh, I'm bored. I don't have anything to do. And again, you can say to them, they can find things to do. But one of the things that I know work, because I also have a teenager, is to say, hey, I have some unfinished project going on in the house that I need to get completed. So maybe I need to clean out the cellar or something. You know what a teenager will say? Don't worry, I'll entertain myself. I'll find something else to do because they don't necessarily want to do this project that you're doing. So for young children, you might start off with 5, 10 minutes, telling them that you have trust that they will able to entertain themselves. And when they're done, give them encouragement, not praise. Give them encouragement. You say, "Wow, look, you were able to spend 10 whole minutes finishing your game, playing by yourself. How do you feel about yourself? You feel proud, right? Give me a high five for that." That kind of thing. The more you and whatever you encourage expands. So if you want them to be able to entertain themselves, start with, for depending on the child, you might have to start with 5 minutes. Others you might start with 10 minutes. But when they do it, encourage them. Give me a high five. Job well done. Tell me about this thing that you were playing with. Children who whenever they feel good will do good, and they will want to continue to do that good thing that they get that recognition for. So that's what I would encourage parents to do is, don't, sometimes we say I need an hour to get my work done, but remember, maybe your child was not trained to play for an hour by themselves. So you have to again monitor your expectations. Let me start with 10 minutes, see how that goes. Maybe 5 minutes, add it on next time and go on and on and on. And keep saying to your child, job well done. I love that you're playing by yourself. When they're just starting and they don't believe that they can do it themselves, just keep saying, I have faith. Take them back. Again, parents, for the little ones, especially, it might take some time to take them back and forth. So what you can say, what do you want to play? What's your favorite toy you want to play with now? You're gonna play with that while I'm over here making lunch. And we can look at each other, and then when we're finished, we can have lunch together, as an example.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
So you talked about expectations, and
Hmm.
when I think about my expectations before I had kids, I was a way better mom before I had kids. um, so I mean, you have this idea how you want to raise them, and then obviously, however, like the circumstances are, you can't really keep up to the promises you gave yourself.
Hmm.
And now in this special situation, even more so. So you're less strict with eating up or with TV, for example.
Right.
Lots of people are very stressed out about the fact that their kids are watching more TV than they are okay with.
Mhm.
And so how, what could you say to the parents about this, but also maybe give us a little insight on
Mhm.
how to handle these things?
Okay. So as it relates to the TV and the media and all of that, I, the research or the associations with child development and pediatrics say children, 2 and above, just 1 hour of TV. Once they hit 5, it's 2 hours and so on. Right now, you might be saying, I am totally crashing that and they're getting way more. First of all, it's a different circumstance. We're in unprecedented times. And so sometimes you have to give a little bit more just to help yourself relax and your children relax. Now, to avoid going into the children being glued onto the electronics for hours on end, parents, children of all ages need a routine and structure. And that is also tied into the possibility of us having burnout when we don't have that as parents. So, the little ones who are in kindergarten, Kita, depending on the city and country you're in, if you're watching this, try to have some form of routine set up from if they get up in 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning to about 1:30. Because that's a typical time they will be doing stuff. So you have your breakfast time, then you might have your play time, then you have your story time, and then you might have your electronics time. You have to create a routine. And then for the electronics time, you might give them an extra 15 minutes here and there. Same thing with the primary school children and the high school children. Now, for them, they will obviously be spending more time on the electronics because a lot of them have gone to remote or online schooling. So a lot of times they're in their Google Classrooms or whatever platform the school has, and they're doing their work. Say to them as well, some schools will just upload everything and allow the child to decide when they're going to do it. There are other schools who make it more structured where you have to literally log in the time you'd usually have class. Now, make sure that as best as possible, your children are following those structures set in place for their schooling. And once the schooling part is done, still have some structure set in place to say, okay, if all their academic work is done by 2 o'clock, 2 p.m., you can say, all right, you're going to have 1 hour of nothing, just no electronics. You can just relax. You can take a nap. You can read a book, just unstructured time. Then you might say after that, it's half an hour or an hour. And again, these unstructured time, especially with older children, parents, instead of you telling them, they're more likely to rebel and have difficulties adjusting and they will argue with you. Have these be co created schedules for your children to say, hey, being on the electronics all day is just not something I am comfortable with. We have to find a solution together. Maybe you can do 3 hours a day for the older kids. So these are like teenagers, where it's not related to your schooling, and we need to figure out what you're going to do in these 2 or 3 hours. Are you just going to go play Fortnite with your friends online? Are you going to watch YouTube videos and so on? So have them be part of the solution. Now, the important point of having the structure, why I'm really emphasizing the structure and the routine. Parents, we don't know when things are going to go back to normal, and you're going to be burnt out if you do not have the structure. So, especially for the little ones, if when they were going to Kita or kindergarten, they went to bed at 8 o'clock, aim to put them in bed at that same time. Okay. So at least at 8:30, 8:15, you have enough time to clean up the house, to respond to your emails, to do whatever conference call, to work on your project, that kind of thing. Having the children up 10, 11 o'clock and you have no time to breathe is a recipe for burnout. So have the structure from all age group, early, middle, teenage years. If they had a set bedtime during school time, aim to keep that bedtime so that you can use it to relax. And especially for those who are coupled, you need alone time as adults to keep your relationship healthy. Constantly just working round the clock until 11 o'clock with the children will damage your relationship. You need each other. So if you were used to all the children going to bed by 8, 9 o'clock, still have them do it. So at least half an hour in the evening, you can just spend time together with a glass of wine, just cuddling each other, laughing and talking. It is important because if you, as the adults, are not healthy and strong together, it is going to be even more difficult for the children to adjust to what is going on. So my tip to parents: routine, 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 structure, structure, structure. It's so important to make sure that our children have structure as best as possible.
Okay, so you just talked about couples. There are loads of people out there who are taking care of their kids all by themselves,
Mhm.
which is also a struggle in normal life, and in this situation is even harder.
Right.
Some of them are sending their kids to Notbetreuung now, but
Mhm.
for others, they don't do that for several reasons. For example, if they are at risk of catching the virus themselves, and or they just don't want to do it
Mhm.
for whatever reason that they have. Um, what would you recommend for single parents to cope with this situation?
For single for single parents, you need your online community. So first of all, you need, like, compared to even the coupled people, you need your structure. You will not survive this without structure and routine as a single parent. So it's even more critical for your family to have that structure in place. Now, I don't want parents to think that they have to be extremely rigid and follow it to the T all the time. It's there to, if you need to do flexibility, so you need to move around some of the activities or extend or shorten some of the activities, that is fine. But for single parents, please, especially in the evening, have your children go to bed on time so that you can use the extra hour or two after they're in bed to just relax, to give yourself some self care. That's the number one thing. Then you need to find some online community. So it might be other single parents who are going through the same thing, and they meet up maybe several times a week, or they have their WhatsApp group or Facebook group that they go in and talk. Join those. Some parents, for example, I have a parenting club, so parents can join that club to get support. Look for these support system online, and so that you are able to talk to somebody. You need to be able to talk to another adult about what is happening with you. And if you realize that you're becoming extremely overwhelmed, seek professional help immediately. So for single parents, it's the structure and the self care becomes even more critical for you in order for you to survive this. And try not to be, this is for all parents, try not to be so hard on yourself. Remember, this is unprecedented times. We've never gone through it before, and you might be thinking, I'm not doing enough, or I didn't do this properly enough. That kind of thing will help. You have to you have to make a mind shift, and you can say to yourself, I'm doing the best I can with the resources I have now. I'm doing the best I can with the resources I have now. Things are difficult for me, but we will be okay. I will be okay. You have to have a resilience mindset. A resilience mindset is one that can bounce back from adversities. And in order to have a resilience mindset, you have to have a belief in your ability to overcome any challenge that you're experiencing. So it's going to be hard. If you need to cry, cry. But the important thing is find that support group that can definitely help you to make that shift, to have, so that you're not feeling alone as a single parent. And the structures, you need to have your children, even if they're teenagers, have them in bed by 10 o'clock. You need the alone time to just breathe, to just finish up whatever work you're doing and to just have time for yourself. So if you have these haphazard time going, you're setting up yourself for serious burnout.
Thank you. So the parent-kid relationship and the parent-parent relationship isn't the only one, the only relationship we have during these times. In lots of situations, kids have siblings, and
Yeah.
this situation isn't making it easier for most of them.
Mhm.
So how do we deal with that?
Okay, so we're all restricted now. For some cities, they're loosening up, as it relates to going out on the road, that kind of thing. You do have a lot of siblings who are sharing a bedroom, so they're always in each other's space, and that can be difficult for lots of children, siblings. So, what I recommend to parents is have a discussion with the siblings first to say, hey, being confined in this house with everybody becomes overwhelming for even us as adults. You're both sharing a room. I know you both need space. Let's talk about when you need alone time. Where in the house can you go to get that? So, do you need to use our bedroom, the parents' bedroom, for 30 minutes just to be alone? If there is an office, do you need to be in the office alone? Um, so, what you have to do is help children to find where in the house they can just be by themselves. And when they go there, everybody in the house need to honor that. Like, this is my time. Let me be in that space. Now, sibling conflicts are going to increase naturally because of the confinement. What I say to parents is try not to take sides, be as neutral as possible. And what you can say to them is, I trust that you're going to find a way to figure it out. Now, if they're fighting, for example, over a game, you can say, you guys, I trust that you're going to find a way to solve how you're going to play the game. If you're unable to find a solution, I'm going to take the game from you guys until you can mutually agree on what you're going to do with the game in the future. Now, if they're constantly fighting, saying, no, it's my turn, and so on, you follow through with what you said you're going to do and take the game. And then when they come, you say, okay, what's your agreement about how you're going to use this game so that you both feel okay that the agreement is fair. If one child said, I don't think it's fair, well, you hold on to the game a little bit longer and tell them, go again and figure it out. Parents, when you take the neutral route with the siblings, what you do, you avoid one feeling resentful because they're gonna say, "Oh, that sibling is mommy or daddy's favorite," even though that's not your intention. But they will say, "Oh, that's the favorite," and the one who feels resentful will probably keep attacking or instigating things with their sibling. So try to find a neutral ground. Make sure they both experience the same consequence. So if they're fighting with each other, pull them apart, put them both in separate rooms to calm down. They're both experiencing it. Sometimes parents will say, "Oh, the older one should know better," and so he or she is the one who experienced the consequence. But sometimes the little ones are the ones who instigate things. It's just that when you saw it, the older one was defending him or herself. Okay. So it's important that they go through the same consequence. It's important that you have them find the solutions and now stay out of it as much as possible. So if fists are blowing and all of that, obviously get in the middle and separate them, but be a neutral person as best as possible. If they still can't make an agreement, you can say, you know what we're gonna do then. I can be a neutral person. I can give you both time to talk. So let's put on a timer for 45 seconds. Child A talk about all the issue that they're having. That's done. 45-second, child B does the same thing. Then you say, we need to find a solution together. And you have them, so you're more like a mediator instead of telling them what to do. Because you tell them what to do, they're going to bounce back again and start fighting. When children are part of the solution, it's more likely that that solution will hold up compared to when parents butt in and try to tell them what to do.
Thank you. So some of of us parents have the problem with homeschooling that you already addressed. Do you have any tricks up your sleeve? It's not just about the homeschooling itself, but also with other siblings and finding the time to even do that and motivating them to do their homework or their homeschooling. What would you tell those parents?
It's a new, I would say, first of all, be patient. Most of our children do better with in-person instructions. So this online atmosphere is very new. So as adults, we're used to that from work, or maybe when we were in university, we did a lot of online courses, that kind of thing. All of that is new for children. So you have to be patient with them. Now, to get them to be motivated to work in creating that same structure that I mentioned is have them be part of that creation of the structure. And when you see that they have done something well, is to then congratulate them on going through the process. Say, I know it was hard to sit there for a 1 hour Zoom call with your English teacher today. That looked tough. I don't know how I could do it. But you did it. How do you feel about yourself for doing that? Okay, so give them the recognition when they are doing something, and let them know too, don't be too hard on yourself. This is something new and you will take some time to adjust to having all your school instructions online. Some children adjust to it quite quickly, and but there are other children who prefer to have live instruction. Just sometimes you might just have to sit with them. Also, what you can do, if the school counselor is available online, ask the school counselor if they could talk one-on-one with your child, or you might suggest to the school that the school counselors have a big group call, whether it's on Google Meet or Zoom or so on, that you have them have all the children come together, their own age group, so that they can talk about what they're struggling with, so that they can see that they're not alone. Okay? Encourage them as well to talk to their peers on FaceTime, WhatsApp, whatever other media that you can use, so that they know that they're not alone. Yes, you can tell them you're not alone. I'm here for you as a parent. But as a parent, that's technically what you're supposed to do. But if you get them to interact more with their peers and they're exchanging the struggles that they're both going through, it helps them emotionally as well.
So we are having some questions
Yep.
being posted here. So first of one of them is, how important are friends actually for kids, and what can parents do to compensate? You already
Yeah.
said some things right now about this, but maybe you can elaborate.
Friends are very important from a very young age. So the challenge with the isolation now that we're having, let's look at children in early childhood. They need friends to play. It is through play that they develop a lot of, they experience a lot of emotional and cognitive development. Okay. Now, you might think playing with us adults will be okay, but guess what? As adults, we tend to be impatient. We tend to lack the creativity and the excitement that they get from their peers, right? So even from early childhood, they do need their peers. What you have to do is to have even the little ones FaceTime. So maybe you can talk to your kindergarten or your teacher to say the favorite auntie or the favorite teacher at the school. Could you do reading time 1 hour each day for the kids? And all the kids from that group can come on and hear that favorite teacher read, and they can talk to their peers. So the important thing is to have them still have the interaction on the FaceTime or the WhatsApp or the Skype, interacting with each other. And that goes for early childhood, middle childhood, and teenagers. So friends for all developmental stages are important. It's just like for the younger ones, it's more like play. And as you get into middle childhood, adolescence, it's more of the friendships, the crew, and then the teenage years is where the friends become more important than the parents. And so, parents, especially as I mentioned earlier, you might see your teenager just really losing it. But understand the developmental period is friendships. I love my mom, I love my dad, but my friendships are more important to me right now. And you have to allow them to go through that grief process. You have to allow them to spend as much time together. So for boys, they might feel connected to each other through playing some online games. So for teenage boys, they might, a group of them might play Fortnite together. Okay, so my teenage son does that with his friends, and they're talking to each other, they're negotiating. Anybody who has played Fortnite understands that. They're negotiating with each other and so on. But guess what? I've heard conversations of them planning about what it would be like when school restarts. What are the first things they're going to do when they see each other? Other when they're in that social group, they give each other hope. They motivate each other. Girls might do the WhatsApp calls or some other group thing and talk. They might not do their thing. So understand, boys, some parents might be worried about the gaming, but if they're gaming in with their friends, that's how they're connecting and supporting each other. That's emotional support. But for girls, they can have a conversation for 3 hours with each other and be completely fine. They're not doing anything else, but having that conversation. The boys are supporting each other through the game. So it's important to be able to distinguish between them.
That's very interesting and brings me to the other question this one viewer has. She is also asking how much screen time is okay. So I'm guessing this goes more for younger kids, but maybe you can answer it for all kinds of
For,
ages.
for, for me, it's all ages. It's important. So the American Association of Pediatrics, before all of this happened, recommended 1 hour per day for children age 2. For younger children, no screen time unless they're doing FaceTime or WhatsApp video or something like that. Now, for younger children, I would not recommend you go more than 2 hours per day at all. Now, for children 5 and above, where they say, it's 2 hours per day, add an extra 30 minutes, and that's okay. For teenagers, no more than 3 hours. Now, parents, this is so important. What are my children gonna do? I have to reiterate to you all, it's okay for your children to be bored. It is necessary for children to be bored. A lot of parents struggle with that because they don't know, because with the school structure, you have school all day, then you have extracurricular activities, you might have games on the weekends. So before, our children were very active with extracurricular activities, studies, and so on. So they didn't have a time to breathe. And they really didn't enjoy or understand what it is to be bored. It's okay. Let them be bored because it's through boredom comes creativity. All of a sudden, they might pick up that guitar that they've been ignoring for a very long time. They might pick up that Lego set that they've been ignoring for a long time. And they might sit there and like, oh, I'm so bored. But with time, you can say, I know, I trust that you will find something to do. So don't feel guilty if your children are bored. It's okay. So don't try to mask or get rid of the boredom by having them place all their energy on the electronics. Encourage them to read a book. Encourage them to go for a walk. Encourage them to pick up that instrument again. Encourage them to read or just sit there and do nothing and let them figure it out themselves. It's not our responsibility to keep our children entertained. They need downtime. Their brain actually needs boredom as well.
So there are two questions that I think we can I can pose together. So what can I do so that children can cope with my overwhelmment of the situation?
Mhm.
And I think along with this, what can I do that my children don't get the feeling that I would sometimes rather have them in the kindergarten than home?
Okay, so parents, this is where self care comes in. And this is where a lot of times as parents, we don't want our children to see what we consider to be our weakness. Okay. And when we do that, we kind of end up making our children have the impression that they need to be perfect all the time. And this is where they think that it's okay not to make mistakes. And that perfectionism can lead to serious issues, academically and otherwise, because they will not challenge themselves. So the first thing is to just be human. Let them know that I am struggling as well. Now, what I encourage parents to do with this self care is have a conversation with your children beforehand to say, there will be times when I feel like I am going to explode. You feel that same way too. You can all create a cool down spot together. So the child can, you can say to your child, when you feel overwhelmed, we need to create to have a cool down spot for you. Where do you think in the house you want to have your cool down spot? What do you think you need to put there? Do you need to put your favorite toy, your favorite teddy bear, your favorite music? Have them created. Then you say, I also need my cool down spot. I need to be able to relax. And when I, as mommy, is in that cool down spot, I need you to just give me some time. Okay. And when you feel overwhelmed, parents, you can say to your little ones, I'm feeling really tired right now. I just need 5 minutes alone to just feel better again. And what you're showing your children, you're teaching them a valid lesson that it's okay to feel tired. It's okay to feel sad. If you feel like crying, you can let the tears out and let them see you cry as well. And they may ask you what is wrong. Let them know it's not their fault. It's just that mommy or daddy, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. And I'm trying to figure out things and I'm going to figure out things eventually. But right now, I'm just feeling really sad. And what you're teaching your children there is it's okay to have sad or negative emotions, and it's okay to express them healthily. So they don't think that when they're experiencing those emotions themselves, it is something bad and they need to keep it hidden or suppressed. So, in order for your children not to feel like you don't want them around, I go back. If you have a structure so you don't get burnout, that helps. Self-care in the evenings, if it's just journaling, it's just taking a shower, having a healthy meal. Parents, we need to exercise. So even if you just go up and down the stairs of your apartment or your house, you need to do something to take care of yourself, because can't if you can't take care of yourself, your children will not be fine. So think about it when we're on the airplane, right? What do they tell you to do if there's an emergency? Put on your mask first, okay? And then your children. In the pandemic, you need to do the same. You need to take care of yourself first so that you can show up for your children. You're not going to be perfect all the time, and that's normal. And when the imperfection comes up, you can definitely share it. Let the children see. Let them see you sad. Let them see you wondering, and let them know I'm just trying to figure out things right now and I'm just really tired. Or I need my alone time. Can you give me half an hour? Can you guys play while I get my alone time? If I don't get my alone time, I can't give you the attention you need. I won't be as patient as I need to be with you. So just give me the time to just relax and take a breather. And children will learn to respect that as well over time.
Okay, so I think that's a perfect send off to all the parents out there
Yeah.
that these are special. This is a special situation. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's okay to make mistakes, and your kids will even learn something from that. They will learn that it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah, and to channel and to also modify our expectations. A lot of us as adults don't even want to admit that we're perfectionists as well. And we're expecting to maintain the same schedule that we did before all of this happened. You have to be realistic and you have to change a few things and be okay. And the most important thing, parents, is to be adaptable. The more rigid you are, the more stress you're going to feel. If you thought that you have always done this thing in this particular way, and you want to continue to do it in this particular way, even though the current climate is not allowing you to do that, you're going to experience additional stress. So be as adaptable and as flexible as you can in this time. Be gentle with yourself. Oh, well, it didn't work out. Now, there's something else I need to mention, especially with couples. At the end of the day, I recommend if you're both at home working I recommend to couples, make sure that you have a little 10-15 minute meeting with each other to say what worked today, what didn't work, what do we need to change, and you modify day by day. Okay. And if you're by yourself, you could also do that as a single parent journal. What worked for me? What didn't work? Another thing that we forgot to mention is some people wonder how they juggle the working from home with their children. Now, if you have a partner, this is what I recommend you do. You say to each other, okay, who has the early morning meetings tomorrow? And you can say to your bosses, I prefer that. Is it possible for the meetings to be structured in the morning, okay, or the evening? So who has the most important things to do in the morning? When you decide that, the other parent is going to be on full duty. So let's say the children wake up at 8 o'clock. So from 8 to 1, one parent is solely dedicating their time to the children, and the other parent is in the office doing their emails, working on their projects, having their conference call. You take a break, have lunch together as a family, and then you switch your roles. So that's the way you have to, if you have a team. And then when the children are sleeping, you answer all the important emails, make all the important phone calls while they're taking their nap. And even after, you see why the routine comes in now. So if they all go to bed by 8, 9 o'clock, you might be able to take an extra half an hour or an hour to follow up on your emails and all that important thing. Now, if you're a single parent, that's not possible. You have to have a conversation with your boss to say, tell me your top 3 priorities for this week that need to be done this week. I can start them first because I'm doing this alone and I don't know if I can complete everything. Okay. And have that kind of structure with your boss to help you along the way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Taniesha, for helping us with all these issues we're having right now. And as I understood, if I understood it right, you're going to open a Slack on our Slack channel. You're going to open a channel and post some videos in there that you already did, and people can ask you questions on that channel as well.
Yeah.
You might not always be able to answer them because you are a working mom yourself at home with your kid. But this is where you can see Taniesha and check out all the other
and for my Facebook page is Taniesha Burke, PhD, and I have already over 30 videos on a wide range of parenting topics that you can definitely go through and see which one best fits the challenge that you're having. Or I send out weekly newsletters to my parents as well on parenting tips, more more so nowadays, focusing on what's happening with the virus and how you can better ensure that your home is adapting as best as possible. So persons can go to my website, which is tanieshaburt.com, and there is a pop-up will come for you to just sign up for the newsletter, and then you can be part of that as well.
Perfect. And for everyone else, maybe being on here but has no idea what this is connected to in this particular moment, it's connected to a movement we call Eltern in der Krise. So you will find the link to the Facebook page, to the Facebook group in the comments or the description. And in there you can find in the Facebook group, again, you can find the link to our Slack, where different channels also already have been opened by different people working on solutions and proposals on how to manage this crisis better from a parent's perspective.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Taniesha, and
my pleasure.
Hope to see you in person soon.
Yes, same here. And parents, be gentle with yourself. That's my final word. Be gentle with yourself. This too shall pass, just a little hiccup in our journey. But as long as we have the mindset that this too shall pass, we will be okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.